Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Red Light Sports Ramble, presented by the Red Light Sports Network. I am Troy Otradovic, as always, joined by the wonderful Evan Witallison out in the great state of Wisconsin. Evan, it has been a crazy 4 days in the NFL. We've been talking free agency on and off all week. We started really heavy on Tuesday. Then we had a great guest in Brady Papinga on Wednesday. Yesterday we talked Badger basketball because the Big Ten tournament is in full swing. Badgers play tonight. So we had Dave Radcliffe on yesterday to talk Badgers. So I had tweeted out today, Evan, it's going to be a great NFL free agency show, but I'm not sure 30 minutes can get us caught up on everything that's going down. And before I let you talk, you had mentioned about Steve Smith. He's agreed to a 3-year deal with the Ravens.
He has?
So it's on breaking news, NFL.com. Steve Smith agrees to 3-year deal with Ravens. So you had said you saw him going down next. There it is, right there in print on NFL.com. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, buddy. Where do you want to start? We have 32 options because there's 32 teams involved in free agency, and there's some movement with the Packers today. So let's get started, bud. Wherever you want to start, I'm right there with you. I'll ride your coattails today.
Well, we can start with Packers. Packers is still kind of quiet in the free agency front when it comes to signing other people's free agents. Their main focus right now is keeping their own guys in house. And then I'm sure after they determine, which one of their guys are staying, which one of their guys are going, then they're going to look at what's available in the free agency wire. Now, Packers have re-signed four of their own. They re-signed Sam Shields right before free agency hit, would have been last week Saturday. And then would have been Wednesday, while we were on the air, Mike Neal re-signed with the Packers on a 2-year deal. Yesterday, Andrew Corliss re-signed with the Packers to a 2-year deal. And then B.J. Raji today signed that 1-year, $4 million contract that was being talked about last week as a possibility. And then when he decided to test the market, most people are thinking that the offer was off the table. But he apparently didn't like what he was seeing in the open market. So he decided to come back. Now, in other Packer news, they did lose one of their own free agents. The first bigger name free agent that they lost, they did lose M.D. Jennings on Wednesday to the Bears. No big loss, but they lost Evan Diedrich Smith today to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He just signed a contract with them earlier today. So now we'll see what the Packers do in regards to that.
Well, let's just stay on that topic then, Evan. What do you think we're going to do at center? Do you think we're going to go into the draft and look for a center? Do you think we might go out into free agency? The pool of centers isn't that deep in free agency this year, in my opinion. So I'm not sure if we're going to get a long-term answer at center in free agency that's going to fit into the Packers scheme. What do you think we're going to do as far as center goes now? Because that's a big piece to lose on that offensive line.
Yeah, it is, and it'll be the third center. It'll be the fourth different center Rodgers has had to use since he's been there. Scott Wells, then Jeff Saturday, Diedrich Smith, and this should be the fourth center. And there is only really one guy in the open market right now in regards to the center position that I think is worth anything, and that's Aaron Mack from the Cleveland Browns. But the issue with Aaron Mack is he got the transition tag put on him, so the Packers would have to give up some kind of compensation to get him. And who knows what the price would be for an Aaron Mack. He's the elite center on the market, and if they're not willing to pay Evan Diedrich Smith, who is familiar with the Packers system and comfortable with Rodgers and the rest of the offensive line, are they really going to spend big money bringing in a free agent? what I see the Packers doing is in the draft last year, they drafted J.C. Treader, who they drafted from Cornell. He goes 6'4", 307. I see him taking over that center spot. They drafted him, I believe, knowing how Ted Thompson operates. They drafted him last year in the 4th round, knowing that Diedrich Smith is a free agent, and if he leaves via free agency, they have to have somebody in place to replace him, kind of what they did with when they drafted Mike Neal when Cullen Jenkins was coming up on free agency. Granted, Neal didn't really work out at defensive end for them, but that was just thinking there. And then they drafted Jordy Nelson, and they drafted James Jones when they really didn't need a wide receiver. But then you have Donald Driver retire, you have Greg Jennings leave. Now the Packers look great when they have Jordy Nelson and now Randall Cobb, and now they're possibly losing James Jones. So Thompson tends to look ahead. And when he drafted Treader last year, I believe this is exactly why they drafted Treader. He was in first-team All-Ivy League, third-team FCS All-American back in 2012. He broke his ankle in OTAs early on. I think he possibly could have pushed Diedrich Smith for playing time in training camp last year, but he hurt his ankle, like I said, in OTAs, and he missed most of the season, and he didn't get activated from the PUP list until December 10th, and then they just kept him, working out with the team rather than put him in any games. But he's the guy I think is going to take the role, and from everybody I've heard, they're very high on him.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there, because like I said, what's out in free agency, I can see Ted Thompson maybe picking up somebody late in free agency, or maybe even waiting until before training camp to see who's out there to get that competition that Brady Papingo was talking about that they need to have. You don't want to just hand it over to him. You want to, maybe say you're the starter, but look, you're a key piece to our offensive line, which he is. The center is a key piece. Evan, you played offensive line. That is a guy that's got to be out there, and he's got to audible those blocking schemes. He's got a lot of responsibility, and we know what happens in Green Bay. You have to protect Aaron Rodgers. So that is a very pivotal position on the line. So it's great if they have faith in him, but they've got to have some competition to push him so that he's playing at the highest level possible. You had mentioned James Jones. Steve Smith now off the board. Let's talk a little bit about James Jones. The longer that it goes on, the more I think that the Packers might be in the running to actually get him back. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, we keep saying he's not going to be back. But as I watch the free agency roll out, the longer this goes on, I'm starting to swaying a little bit that, hey, there's a little daylight that maybe James Jones does come back to the Packers. What's your thought on that?
There is a small chance that he could. I don't expect to see him back, but there is a small chance. Never say never. I didn't expect the B.J. Raji to agree to a one-year deal, and he did. Now with Eric Decker off the market and now Steve Smith off the market, James Jones wouldn't naturally be the next guy off the market in regards to wide receiver. And so a couple of natural landing spots for him would be Carolina, where Steve Smith just left. And you had said during, I believe during pre-chat, that you had seen something about Carolina regarding James Jones. So that could be a good natural fit.
I was just running across the bottom of the screen this morning. Like I said, I was out the door to get my coffee, and I saw James Jones, and I saw the Carolina symbol on the left of the screen. So I wasn't sure. And then I got to work, I checked, and he hadn't signed. So maybe he's got a visit planned or something.
Yeah, he may. And I know the Jets are still interested in him. They could still use wide receiver help, even though they got Eric Decker. They could still use some weapons for Geno Smith or Mike Vick when he eventually does sign with the Jets, and he's probably going to end up being the starter, and we'll get to that on a different day on why that just irritates me. But James Jones is a shot that he can come back to Green Bay, and he just has to have the worst luck ever when it comes to free agency.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, he becomes a free agent in the lockout season, so he only has a week or two to sign with somebody to test the market and sign before training camp started. And you don't want to miss a lot of training camp. That would have set him back. And now this year he becomes a free agent when there's a lot of young talent in the NFL draft this year, such as Mike Evans from Texas A&M. Or I think it's not Woods. He was drafted last year, but USC has a really good wide receiver coming out too. So this draft is loaded with wide receiver talent. So he just has the worst luck when it comes to free agency.
No, he does, man. He really does. I mean, and even the whole thing. I mean, I look at it. You talk about luck. The Steve Smith thing. I mean, that it takes away another option for him. With Steve Smith being out on the market, that took another team away because, of course, there's interest there. That's a proven veteran. But you're absolutely right. This wide receiver draft, we've talked about it on the show. If a wide receiver fell to the Packers at 21, it could happen where Ted Thompson may just pull the trigger. And that's how deep this draft is. And you're going to even get some value in the third round, the fourth round in this wide receiver draft. It is as deep as I've ever seen it. And that does not bode well in free agency. Two things. One, it might drive the price down a little bit, or they just might not even drive it anywhere because people are going to say, you know what, I don't need to pay you the millions of dollars when I can nab a guy in the second round or the third round of the draft that we really like and develop a younger guy at a better price. So, yeah, you're right. He has the worst luck always when he hits free agency. Maybe he should just sign a one-year deal like Raji did and come back to the Packers, and that's where I wanted to go next. That's why I brought it up. What are your thoughts on Raji signing with Green Bay and coming back after we pretty much said he's pooed the bed since the Super Bowl? Literally. He's done nothing. And his performance has declined steadily over the years, and now he's back in Green Bay. What's your thought?
Well, when I look at B.J. Raji, he had his best year in 2010 when he strictly lined up at nose tackle, and he had Cullen Jenkins at one side of the field taking up a lot of pressure, and then he had Clay Matthews on the other side rushing, taking up pressure as well. So Raji he took on a lot of one-on-one blocks with usually a smaller and slower a blocker in that center. When Raji's playing that five technique, which he's done pretty much every year since that Super Bowl year, that five technique being defensive end, he's taken on offensive tackles who are probably much quicker than he is, and that's what Raji gets by on. He gets by on his quickness. And he's not going to be able to beat a tackle off the line of scrimmage. A lot of tackles nowadays are running 40s in the low 5s, upper 4s. So that was a problem with him. And not replacing Cullen Jenkins has been hurting them too, which Mike Daniels has really stepped out these past couple of seasons. But Dayton Jones didn't develop like they thought he would, who was supposed to take some pressure off of Raji. And Raji was playing defensive end a lot last year due to the fact that Jones didn't develop. And Ryan Pickett is very limited at this point in his career that he had to play the nose. He doesn't move good enough anymore to play on the five technique, which Ryan Pickett did during that Super Bowl win in 2010. He played the five technique. He can't do that anymore. So now with Raji strictly playing the nose for this year, I expect him. I'm not going to say he's going to come out and have 2010 production all over again, but I look for better production out of Raji. I see more than just 17 tackles out of him, and I see better production from A.J. Hawk, Brad Jones, Jerry Lattimore, or whoever else is playing in that middle linebacker position. I see better numbers from them with Raji playing there because the guards are going to have to account for Raji attacking that middle. So I can see him having a breakout year, and he's going to basically play his way out of Green Bay, either on a breakout year, which I see happening, or another crap-the-bed year, and Packers aren't even going to bother with him. But I see the latter happening where he has a breakout year.
Well, I think if he gets back, like you said, to the natural position, and, if we're looking into this the right way, Capers wants that back. And so if we can get Raji back into that natural position, then maybe he'll feel more comfortable. And so we'll see what happens as we move forward in the season and how they're going to utilize Raji. But you're absolutely right. Moving him out of position was very uncomfortable for him, and we saw the stats decline. Needless to say, when you're on the field, you got to put up the numbers, but you were in a position that, first, you're not suited to play out there, and second, you're absolutely right, that's not where he plays. He's not going to be producing the numbers we need when they move him outside. So with that said, do you think they're going to re-sign Pickett also, or is Pickett going to just be a forgotten man now?
With Boyd on the team and developing, I don't see Pickett coming back. I know Pickett said he wants to go back to Green Bay, but we've all seen it over the past many years. When Thompson has a younger option already on the roster, he tends to let the veteran go. He did it with Cullen Jenkins when he thought Mike Neal was that guy. And then let's not mention the other guy that he thought was the one they drafted from Tennessee. I'm not even going to say his name. I'll save the trouble, out of making you want to vomit. But, they let Cullen Jenkins go when they had younger guys. They let Nick Burnett go because they had Desmond Bishop, a younger guy. So Thompson's done it before. He let the older guy go because he feels he has a younger guy on the roster that's ready to step up and take that spot. And I think you got B.J. Raji for at least another year. Then you have Josh Boyd backing him up in the nose as a younger option. And let's not forget you have Dayton Jones, who I expect to take a huge jump forward this season. He's a year into the system. Hopefully he's healthy all off season, doesn't get an ankle sprain during training camp again like he did last year. He suffered a high ankle sprain. I don't think people realize just how difficult that made it for him. And I don't see Pickett coming back. So I wish him the best of luck, whoever does sign him, but I don't think it's going to be Green Bay.
Okay, so Green Bay, looks like we kind of wrapped that up a little bit. Leaves us just about 12 minutes to really get into the NFL, and we look at what's been going on over the past few days. And I'm going to go back to this, and I kind of wanted to bury it, but we had Raider Nation call in, use some choice words. But they went on and made a couple big signings here this week, Evan. Shoring up, not big, but they went out after name players and brought some players in that were names. What do you feel about the two signings the Raiders had on defense? Good or bad? Or in between?
I like Justin Tuck. I like that signing. I think he brings the Raiders a lot. And can you refresh me on who the other defensive guy was? I'm drawing a blank at the moment.
The Steelers outside linebacker.
Oh, Woodley. Was it Lamar Woodley?
Yes.
Who?
Do you know how much I heard about that today? That's all I heard about.
A lot.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Woodley. Yeah, okay, you know what? He's been hurt a lot. He wasn't worth the money, and the Steelers operate kind of on the same pretext the Packers do. We're not going to overpay you. When you get to a certain point, we're going to put a value on you, and you're not worth that value anymore, and that's what happened. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I like Tuck. I think he's still got a lot left in the tank. Woodley, just inconsistent. If he can stay healthy, I think he can help him, but I'm not sure if he hasn't been able to stay healthy, so we'll see what happens. But,
yeah, I think Woodley was a good signing, and I think Tuck was a good signing. I think it's really going to bring some pressure to the quarterbacks. And you look at that division that they're in, they have to get pressure on Peyton Manning to compete with the Broncos, because if Manning has time to throw, he's going to pick you apart. But if you can get him uncomfortable, as you saw in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks, which the Seahawks may not have really gotten, a sack, they got a lot of pressure on him. And he looked very uncomfortable trying to get the ball out. If you can get pressure on Manning, you can beat him. And then you look at Kansas City with Alex Smith. Alex Smith is good at getting that ball out quickly, so you need to get pressure on Alex Smith. And then Phillip Rivers is another quarterback in that division. So those two being signed coming in were great additions to that team. Now, where they completely and utterly screwed up was with Roger Saffold from the St. Louis Rams. They agreed with the overpaid 5-year, $42.5 million deal, but he ended up failing a physical and it was voided. So he's re-signed with the Rams, and they lost Rashad Jennings was a nice complimentary running back. They lost Lamar Houston to the Bears, and they lost Jared Vila here, a nice tackle who signed with the Arizona Cardinals, and they also lost Tracy Porter. One of the big guys they did bring back, which was surprising, was Darren McFadden to a 1-year, $4 million deal. So he pretty much got the B.J. Raji prove-it 1-year deal that they got.
Yeah, so as we move forward and we see, do you think the weekend's going to be as hectic? You see a lot of things going down, or do you think it might start to slow down finally?
I think it's going to slow down. I think the big-name guys are done. I think in some positions like wide receiver, it's going to, come to a standstill. They're going to, wait till after the draft. So I think James Jones, unless he decides to, take a lesser deal with somebody that he truly wants, I think he's going to have to wait till after the draft before he finds a home. I think it's going to slow down. I think you saw the big names get off the board quickly. Since Tuesday, you saw those big names get off the board, and like I said, it's going to slow down. And now you're going to see the teams that really haven't made a lot of moves yet, like Green Bay. That's when you're going to start seeing them possibly sign people. Like Green Bay had Vance Walker from the Raiders in for having him come in for a visit. Now, initial time's over, so now it's time to watch the teams like the Packers or the Steelers make moves. Do you think it's going to slow down? Or do you think it's going to stay heated up?
Well, there's so many names out there. I mean, but I look and the next name I see coming off the board is Spikes, and that's how I was going to lead into that question, because I had somebody at work ask me about Brandon Spikes today. But I'm with you. I don't think we're going to see a lot of things going down. I know I'll be interested to see what's going to go on with Nix. I think Nix will get something done here. I'm thinking, you had said Jones was next. I think, to be honest, that Nix is going to go probably before Jones. That's just something that's going to go before Jones. And so, again, it's the luck that Jones has. All these names are out there. I know Nix didn't have a great year last year, but neither did the Giants as a whole. You had Manning that threw, close to 30 interceptions last year, and he wasn't on top of his game, and the injuries and all that to him. But I think he goes as the next receiver when you're talking big names. But the one I want to watch out for is Brandon Spikes. And I'll tell you where I feel on this, and you can chime in after. Somebody came up to me today and said that Brandon Spikes would be a great fit in Pittsburgh, because I'm in Pittsburgh. Well, my problem with Spikes is that he's great at the run, but he cannot defend the pass. And so they had asked me would I want him to be on the Packers, and I said no. I don't want him on the Packers, because if you look at our division and you look at the teams that we play, the guy can stop the run, yes, but this is becoming a league, especially our division with the Staffords, and the Cutlers that are going to throw the ball. We do have to stop the run, but we also need our linebackers to drop back in coverage at some times. So I'm not a big Spikes guy. I think he's a good player. I think he'll find a home somewhere, but I don't think he's a good fit in Green Bay, my opinion. The idiot gives his opinion. What do you think about Brandon Spikes?
You know what we really need on this show? We need some sound effects, and we need the breaking news sound effect, because we disagree so little that when we do disagree, I think it's a breaking news moment. I'm looking at the opposite. I get that Brandon Spikes, and he's not coming to Green Bay. So before people start calling me an idiot saying that he's coming to Green Bay or the Packers should sign him, I think it would be a great signing for Green Bay. You look at what the Packers lack in the middle of their defense is they lack a inside strong middle linebacker. They have two guys that are weak, that can play the weak side relatively well in Hawk and Jones, but they don't have that bumper in the middle. And although Spikes is limited in pass coverage, he's someone that's going to, stuff the running back, stuff the fullback in the hole, and allow guys like Hawk or Jones to come on in and take him to the ground. I would love Spikes in Green Bay. I think he'll bring an attitude that the team lacks. But I think Spikes is going to Buffalo. They just moved a linebacker they drafted last year from the middle to the outside linebacker spot, and they're making room for Spikes in Buffalo.
Yeah, that's. I'll talk about that. I agree with you. I think he's going to end up in Buffalo, and I can't disagree that he is a thumper, Evan. And so you're right. When we disagree, it's very slim and very seldom that you and I disagree about something. But I guess when I look at how we can win, and I agree with you, we need somebody that's hard-hitting. Maybe I am just too picky. Maybe I'm looking at the end of the spectrum saying I need a well-rounded player to be able to do that. And so, we're going to disagree on that. I don't know about Buffalo. I mean, they're going to bring them in and they'll just throw monies out at people, and that's the way it goes. They threw money out at Mario Williams. Now they're going to throw it out at Brandon Spikes. I kind of feel sorry for the Bills fans because sometimes, I look at it and say, what are they doing out there? But, he is out there visiting, I believe, correct? I think he made an official visit, or he's going to be visiting out there.
I heard he was going to be visiting. I'm not sure when, but I heard he was going to be visiting out there.
Yeah, I can scroll down here real quick because I have NFL.com on and see what they're saying. Let's see here. They're just talking about could be a great fit in Buffalo. Like you were saying, the team is planning to move Alonzo to outside, according to an interview with Doug Wally from Mike Rodak of ESPN. So, I think that deal definitely does get done. That Spikes goes to Buffalo. But I thought it was just one of those where we could throw it out. We always have those moments where, what if? And that question came up to me today from somebody at work, so I wanted to get your opinion. And lo and behold, we disagree. So what else do you want to talk about in free agency? Just under 2 minutes. If there's nothing left in free agency.
Yeah, I was going to make it very quick, and you look at what the team like the Denver Broncos have done. They're getting all the publicity right now in the offseason. They've signed DeMarcus Ware, Talib, T.J. Ward, and people are talking about the Broncos and penciling them in the Super Bowl already. But you look at what they lost. Yeah, they've lost Eric Decker, so is that going to hurt them? But they also lost Zane Beatles. He was an offensive lineman. He signed with somebody else. He signed with Jacksonville. And they don't have a running back. They have Monte Ball, but is he really the answer? And I don't know. So before you start penciling Denver in as the Super Bowl champions and saying that they're going to be representing the AFC and Arizona, they have some holes they still got to address on the offensive side of the football. Yeah, you got Peyton Manning, but if you can't run the ball and take some pressure off of Manning, they're going to have a hard time moving the football. And you saw with Rodgers, he could pass the ball up and down the field all he wanted, but until they got Eddie Lacy in the backfield this past season, the Packers struggled to close out games, and that's what the Broncos are going to see. And then Chicago, and we can probably dedicate a day to them, but you look at the signings they made, I'm very curious on what kind of defense they're going to run, because they signed Lamar Houston, who's not really a stout pass rusher, but he's really stout against the run, and he can put pressure on. But I think he's a better 3-4 fit, and I don't think he fits the Bears defense unless they're moving to a 3-4. So keep a close eye on that this offseason.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the team I think that's out there being aggressive, that's really improving themselves, and I know there's, a lot of talk about Shiano and Tampa Bay and all that stuff that was going on, and they had a crappy year last year. But I thought they've been pretty aggressive and I know they got rid of Revis, but I'll tell you what, I think Tampa Bay is doing some really good stuff in free agency. So, they're going out there and being aggressive, and it looks like they want to try to win. I mean, they signed McCown. I would imagine that he's probably going to either take over. I can't imagine him going there to be the backup. I'm sure there's going to be competition, but So, they're making some aggressive moves. Good for Tampa Bay. It was pretty crappy last year, but they're out there making some moves. And, I know that our live show has now ended, so our listeners are not live. But if you're going to listen to the archive, where we do get most of our listeners anyway, we can touch a little bit on Revis. Everybody said he had a down year, but the thing is nobody throws the ball to him. I don't think he's a great shot. Yeah, I still think though he is still a corner that you're not going to keep testing. I don't think he had a down year. I look at him. He's a guy that you want on your team on defense. If you can have a cornerback, I would love to have a Revis. He's a very good player. So, I hear people, talk about his down year and all this. And, but Tampa Bay, that was a lot of money to soak up for another year. I think it was a good move on their part. I think they can get by without him, and getting to be able to open up that money to sign other players, I think was probably the right move for Tampa Bay. So, but with that said, Bud, live show, the 30 minutes is not enough. We could talk about every team. So
no, we didn't have the crazy lady letting us know either.
No, the only thing that happened, and I'll tell you this, our fans wouldn't even know if I didn't even mention it. The one thing that will stop the recording on my iPhone, Evan, and what is that? Do you remember?
Phone call or text message.
No, text messages are fine. Doesn't interrupt the recording. A phone call stops the recording. And guess what happened? About 10 minutes into I got a phone call. And it had to be. It wasn't. It was my father. So what is he doing calling me during showtime? He should have just called the show. If he needed to talk to me, he should have called the show. But oh well.
Yeah.
I'll record it after. I'll just go on to Blog Talk, record our archive, get it up on YouTube. You guys will be just fine. But, with that said, Bud, 30 minutes was not enough. We knew that. There's going to be a lot more to talk about. I want to give the fans tomorrow that are going to listen in on the Saturday show, it is going to be a good one. We're not going to let the cat out of the bag. But it's going to be pretty much about ownership and how ownership can maybe drive some things crazy. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to kind of tease people, but I think it's going to be a good show tomorrow. Evan, what do you think about tomorrow's topic and show?
I think it's going to be a great show. I'm excited for it, and, I think our fans are going to enjoy it, and I hope they are listening and they call in and enjoy it, because, like I said, it's going to be a huge show.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a really good one, and we look forward to doing it. It actually came in at the request of someone else. So we're going to prepare for it. We're going to do the show, and it's going to be a great one tomorrow. But with that said, go Badgers. Go Badgers tonight, Evan, against Minnesota in the Big Ten tournament. We'll start the show tomorrow. We'll fill everybody in on where the Big Ten tournament is. Hopefully the Badgers are still alive, and see who they're going to face, because the Michigan State Northwestern game with a big upset is the second game this evening. So it'll be interesting to see if Michigan State can get by number 11 seed Northwestern. But with that said, Evan, another great show with you, bud. We'll let the listeners go. We'll see you all at the next Red Light. We'll get back at you tomorrow, everyone.